When I was born, they told me that I am Jewish and Israeli. But later I realized that I was actually born into a cult, the Zionist cult. I understood that I was born in a land called Palestine, on top of which a project called the Zionist project started a state called Israel, and that state is an apartheid, colonialist, racist, genocidal state that took the land and the resources away from the indigenous Palestinian population, drove out the majority of the population, and has for 78 years now, or even more than 78 years, depends on when you start counting, been busy expelling and exterminating all Palestinians to make room for the settler population, mainly Jewish, who is there to promote the interests of the Western Empire in general and the US in particular. The Jewish people who live in the place called Israel were all born, like me, into a machine, a very elaborate and powerful machine of propaganda and indoctrination. From the moment that you're born, you are fed lies and stories, false narratives into your brain. You are surrounded by people who have all been brainwashed in this same fashion. So your parents, your family, your friends, schools, the media, everyone around you is busy washing your brain and telling you all these lies, and so it's a collective brainwashing. Everyone is doing the brainwashing on each other. This is why I call it a cult, because it reinforces, everyone reinforces each other, and it is very difficult, close to impossible, to break out of this indoctrination, of this propaganda, of this brainwashing. It's not just difficult to understand the truth because the truth is hidden, obfuscated behind a screen of lies, denial, and distance. Not just because of that, but also because when you do start realizing the truth, when you do start questioning the stories that you've been told, you get a lot of very aggressive and violent backlash from everyone around you. That's it's manipulation, it's curse words, it's threats, it's passive aggressive, it's gaslighting, it's all kinds of things, all kinds of tools that are used by cults in general and by the Zionist cult in particular to keep you inside the cult, and it's very manipulative, it's very sophisticated, and there is a system in place that's billions and billions and billions of dollars every single year is invested into this elaborate system that's meant to keep people in line. I think never again was always a lie. I think what happened in the 1930s and the 1940s, the Holocaust of the Jewish people, where my grandfather's entire family was murdered by the Germans, by the Nazis, it was taken advantage of by the Western Empire. It was taken advantage of by Germany. So Germany wanted to expel all the Jews to begin with. Then they said, maybe let's exterminate them. When they couldn't exterminate them, they thought of a different solution. Let's send them all to a big ghetto in Palestine. And that's what they did. And this was something that the Western Empire really, really liked. Why? Because now you have a huge population of millions of people who were the victims of horrible atrocities, and therefore are vulnerable to the brainwashing that I was talking about, and you can take advantage of them and you can use them to promote the interests of the empire in the Middle East. And this is exactly what they did. And now you see Israel as a huge military base that is promoting the interests of the UK, of Germany, of Europe, of the US, of the entire West in the Middle East to obtain the resources and the military supremacy and geopolitical supremacy in the Middle East. And to maintain this military base, they must drive out the indigenous population. And this is the reason for the ongoing ethnic cleansing of Palestine that has been going on since the beginning of the 20th century. And the last phase, the most violent phase that we've been seeing in the last 2 years, that is called the genocide. But I prefer to say that the entire thing is an ongoing genocide. And the last 2 years are just the most intense phase of it, when they are trying to really completely annihilate the population of the Palestinians. So you see how one atrocity is being taken advantage of to cause another atrocity. And the question is, will this ever end? And I think the only way that it ends is if we do a revolution, if we stop this entire machinery that is doing more and more and more genocides, more and more and more atrocities. My message to the world is, again, that the genocide will not stop until we dismantle Zionism. Because Zionism is the root cause of the genocide. And Zionism will not be able to be dismantled if we do not dismantle the empire, because Zionism, the Zionist project, is the tool in the hands of the empire. So we must do two things. One, make it not worthwhile for the empire to maintain the Zionist project, and two, dismantle the entire empire. And this is why we need a revolution. So this is my message to the entire planet, and especially people who live in the West. And my message to Jews and to Israelis who are still part of this Zionist cult is, please understand that being members of this cult is not just horrible for the Palestinians. Of course that the cult is doing atrocious things to the Palestinians. The Palestinians are the ultimate victims of this cult. But I want you to understand that you are also victims of this cult. You are also being taken advantage of. You are also being manipulated into killing and into dying. And your end will be much nearer than you think, much uglier and much more violent than you think. And it's much better that you come out of this cult the sooner, the better that you escape this cult and stop serving this cult and start fighting for liberation for all and for the liberation of Palestine, where you live and where you were born in particular.